Hey, welcome to Grandma's Wealth Wisdom, where we help you take charge of cash flow, leverage your assets, and break through to a smart, stable financial future. So, today we're having technical difficulties. So, it's just me right now. Amanda is going to jump in, and hopefully, we will be able to hear each other. I don't know what's going on, but uh, I could hear her fine. She couldn't hear me. So it'll be a fun little thing that we're trying to figure out here. So she's restarting her computer and all that stuff. So if you're joining me, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, put in the comments that you're here. And would love to know. We want to, of course, make these as interactive as possible. We want to also grow and help you, again, take charge of your cash flow and really break through to a smart, stable financial future. So, who here has ever been in a, I don't know, complex situation where, things are complicated and you just feel like it just gets overwhelming? There's so much to keep going, figuring out, and it just gets complicated, right? I think about it when it comes to even like the television shows, right? We used to have three channels, right? Actually, maybe one channel at one point, but three channels, and you figured out between those three channels what you would watch, and that was it, right? You had no other choices. And then you watch certain show at 7, 8, and you had to actually be there, right? That was the way it worked. And then we got cable, right? And then cable means you had more options, more choices, more things. And we could figure out, hey, I could watch this and I'll watch this one later. And then we figured out DVR. And now I have all of the streaming services, and it just gets complicated. How many things do I have on my credit card that is for different streaming services, right? HBO Plus, maybe it's HBO Max, and all the other things. So that is, yeah. So Amanda can hear, and she can hear me on her phone. So that's great. So she probably will jump in soon. So anyway, thinking about the complexity of things, right? And that's something that we've thought about a lot. And the other thing is, does complexity actually mean successful? Does complexity actually mean more? That's another thing to add there. So I think I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. I don't know what the deal
Woohoo!
was, but you are here.
Yes, finally. I think my computer just needed to be restarted. And I didn't
Usually.
have time today because I was trying to fix an error that I came across. But
Uh-oh.
so it
Uh-oh.
goes.
Well, I was talking about the
I heard what
complication.
you were talking about.
So maybe this is a great example. So you had a lot of things going on your computer, and your computer, even though it's a computer, could not figure out the sound or something, or
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever it was. So you had to start fresh, make it simple for the computer to figure out. Does that
Yeah.
sound about right?
Something like that for sure. Yeah. Um yeah, 21st century life is complicated. You were getting into that a little bit with the television or the streaming services, the computers, how many apps we have on our phones, all those kind of things. And for a lot of people, their money is the same way.
Yep.
But um, let's also think about how probably a lot of us are already simplifying, right? We don't buy everything that's advertised to us. We have some kind of filter that we use,
Yeah.
that we buy what we really want or need. We don't read every single Facebook or Instagram post that we scroll by. We have some kind of filter, at least, for what gets us to stop scrolling, right? Gets that thumb to stop moving. Even our email inboxes, we have some kind of filter. We don't open every email. I even find myself sometimes being like, oh, I'm going to select these 3 and just go and delete them because I know I don't need to read them. Or I can tell by the subject line, this isn't going to apply to me this time, or what have you. Any other examples you can think of how we simplify our lives already, just in general?
I mean, I think about it from the social media thing of, I don't know, what is the new thing? I forget even. Twitter, or it's not
Twitter is
new.
not the
Twitter's
new
not
thing.
new. Twitter's the old one. It's the new one of, what is it? Clubhouse.
Clubhouse.
And so many, I get notifications like crazy on that now. And I'm like, oh man, another thing to keep track with. And it gets a little overwhelming of all these voices, right? And that's literally voices that are all here. And so simplifying is difficult.
Yeah. But also, like, complicated and overwhelming are different things. Something could be complicated and be overwhelming because it's complicated, but not
Yep.
all complicated things seem overwhelming. But I'm curious, if you're here and listening right now, which would you label your financial life or people's financial life in general, your, friends' financial life, complicated or overwhelming, or both? Put in the comments, complicated or overwhelming or both. I'm curious what you would say.
Yeah, we
And
got a
ask you.
couple of people here. Would love to hear what you have to say. Again, put this in the comments so we know you're here.
Yeah. But I think whichever one, or maybe there's a different word we could use, simplifying, I wonder if it would help if finances feel overwhelming or if finances feel complicated, if simplifying could be a potential solution or strategy to try. And I wanted to make sure we share what simplify literally means. I looked up the dictionary definition, and it's to make something simpler or easier to do or understand. And of course, simpler is like in the word simplify. I hate when dictionaries do that.
Right.
um, but so to make something more simple is to simplify, or easier to do or understand. I like that second part a lot. Easier to do or understand. How many of us want money to be easier to do or to understand? Absolutely, 100%. If that's you, to say yes in the chat or the comments of this video. Because, like, some people try to boil finances and managing your money down to very simple things. Some people say all you need to know for basic wealth building is spend less than you earn. And if you just do that, you'll be fine. But it's not so simple, right? We can't just say, that if all you know is spend less than you earn, that you're gonna build wealth, because it is more complicated than that. We don't want to pretend like money is not complicated. Yes, we wish money was easier to grab. Thank you for that comment, Les. That would be amazing. But yeah, so, like, if you were to try to simplify money, how would you try to simplify it? Do you agree, like, spend less than you earn is enough?
I think
Is
that
there something else you add to it?
I think that's a start. I think though that there's a marketer, I forgot his, Donald Miller, says if you confuse, you lose.
Mm.
And that's in marketing. So if we have to do a business, we want to like tell people exactly what they need to hear in less, in a 144 characters or less, pretty much. So that way they can get it, right?
Yeah.
But yet in our finances, it is almost rewarded to confuse people.
Mm.
And even in taxes. I mean, look at the tax code and you're like, wait, this is how long? How, and it is very, very confusing. Or I took my health insurance side of things, and I'm like, man, I have to have a degree just to figure out how to deal with health insurance. And if you confuse, you lose. And so people are confused and they just check out. And I think there has to be another way to make it simpler for people. So then they're not as confused and they don't have to, we don't have to lose.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy that.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring up a fitness and eating example, and this actually ties in with the comment you're showing from Les right now. I was thinking about this, like people try to boil money down to just spend less than you earn, just like people try to boil fitness and healthy living down to consume consume less calories than you burn, or
Yeah.
burn more calories than you consume. But the thing is, if all your calories are junk food, like let's say all your calories are marshmallows, but you burn more calories than you consume, that's not healthy living, right?
Yeah.
You need quality food. And so I think this is something that Les is starting to get at here, with better coordination of resources with needs. And like you have to know what your body needs, like what nutrients it needs, what vitamins, what kind, what ratio of protein and carbs, stuff like that. And then you match the calories that you intake with what your body needs, as well as the type of exercise that you do with what your body needs, all under this whole idea of burning more calories than you consume. And that's kind of what we're getting. Like when you say spend less than you earn, it's like, but then you have to look at, what do you want to spend money on that is in coordination with your needs and maybe some of your wants. And if you're spending less than you earn, like how do you increase your earning, right? How do you make sure that's going well? And then what do you do with the difference? Like you need somebody to answer those questions. And that's where it can get complicated, right? How much should I spend? What's the right earning amount? Should I keep trying to earn more? How do I earn more? And what do I do with the difference between what I earn and what I spend? So I want to dig into that a little bit, because we're starting to get complicated, but we promised to share with you how to simplify your money. Before I jump into some of that, Brandon, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, it was all, a lot of times people are gathering stuff, right? And that whole Marie Kondo idea of simplifying your life, seeing if it's joyful and helps you, is a great thing. And realizing that sometimes that stuff doesn't matter; it just complicates things, makes it more upkeep and more costs than it's worth, and we are going after things, and I feel like there's a lot of movement towards people wanting more simple lives, smaller houses. They want to have the tiny house movement. um, 5 shirts to wear, I don't know. And I think that is a movement, but it hasn't really reached the financial sector, because we also love options. We love to have as many options open to us as possible. And so I'm curious how you balance having all these options, but also being simple at the same time.
Yeah. And this is where I think we can actually go back to Marie Kondo and take a tip from her. So, if you love Marie Kondo, put KonMari in the chat. I would love to know who the fans are, or just like spread joy or spark joy. Put that
If you
in
don't
the
know who
comment.
Marie Kondo is, go on Netflix. If you happen to have it, hopefully you don't have. Maybe you're simplified and you don't have Netflix.
Yeah. Or
Um,
she has a great book you probably get from the library. But if you're not familiar, or if you just need a refresher, she has people go through all of their material possessions in a particular order, and they hold them in their hand and they ask, does this bring me joy? And then if it does, they keep it, they find a place for it to honor it. If it doesn't, they honor it, and then they donate or trash it depending on the item. What if we did that with all the things in our financial life? What if we pulled out our bank statement or our credit card statement or both, and we went line by line through the different things that we spend
Mhm.
our money on, and we say, does this bring me joy? And if it does, we keep it. We have a place of honor for it within our lives. If it doesn't, then we cancel the subscription or, don't buy it the next month or what have you. Now, there's going to be things like we're in the summertime almost now, like the air conditioning that at first glance might not seem like it brings you joy, like to pay your electric bill.
Yeah.
But when you think of the cool air after coming in from a walk outside, that probably brings you a lot of joy. So you got to, maybe think a little deeper about some of these things. But then don't stop there. Don't stop with just your bank statement or your credit card statement. Go to the financial products you use. Maybe your 401k at work and the match, or, the money that you're putting in there, and the match that you're getting if you're getting one, your Roth IRA, your uh, properly designed whole life insurance policy, your term insurance, whatever kind of financial products you're using, hold them in your hand, like figuratively, and ask, does this bring me joy? And if it does, keep giving it a place of honor in your life. And if it doesn't, get rid of it, replace it with something that will bring you joy, or just get rid of it in general. Wouldn't that be a fun exercise to do? And if you have a significant other, to do that along with them. And maybe you fight sometimes, this brings me joy, well, this doesn't bring me joy, and you can have a back and forth about it. Have some do that maybe in a public place if you need to, or with a nice latte or a bowl of ice cream or whatever. But that could be a really awesome step to simplifying your money, is to do exactly what Marie Kondo does with stuff, with all the different things that make up your financial life.
Well, and I wonder if like the 401ks and those kind of things, if they make it more complicated, because again, if you confuse, you lose. They win, we lose. But it's the only other way. We think that that's it. There's no other way we could do it.
This comment right here, I have to say, if you're like, I don't know if this should bring me joy or not. I'm confused about this financial product, like the 401k or something like that. That's why you work with a financial professional like Les or like Brandon or me, and they help bring out like, well, what I was actually just talking to somebody today about some big financial decisions she's needing to make right now.
Yeah.
And I was asking her all about her preferences. Like, if you look at not the financial product themselves, but the attributes that they have, like, do you like to pay taxes, right? Like, do you like consistent growth? Do you like the ups and downs of the market? Like, people have different kinds of preferences, and you can, if you start with kind of the attributes of financial products and think through what fits, and then you can go and say, okay, now I'm going to hold this financial product and I'm going to say, does it fit the criteria, the preferences that I have for what I want my money to be doing for me? Then if you do that with a financial professional, even better. And a financial professional should help you do that.
And if you take off the attributes, or not the attributes, but the title of it, and you just go off of attributes, you might be surprised at what you choose.
Yeah.
Of what your actual goals are. And, sometimes I think, well, life insurance, does that bring me joy? But the reality is, I think about it, and if something happens to me and you're protected, or you're fine without, and Blue is, or Sun, then that does bring me joy. Right.
Right. It's like the air conditioning versus the utility bill.
Yeah.
You got to think about it.
And sometimes there's just certain things that, it's needed to just build up. Right. Yeah. So I think that is, in our finances, we need to have more simplicity, actually.
Yeah.
Less complex.
Yeah. And I have to go back to the beginning. So when I'm pretty sure I remember this correctly. All you Marie Kondo fans out there, correct me if I'm wrong about this. But the really fun part of the show, like if you watch on Netflix, is the going through the stuff and seeing how people, react emotionally. But
Yeah.
before they do that, at the very beginning, those first couple minutes of the show, Marie comes in, she has a conversation with the home owners, the people that she's working with. She asks them about their values. What do they want their home to be? They sit and they meditate for a minute, right? Or have a moment of silence where they, take in their home before they, go forward with the process. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Sometimes before we actually go through the bank statement or go through the credit card statement or go through the different financial products, we need to take a step back and ask, what do I want my money to be doing for me? What are my preferences around money? Just sit there. And if that takes a while before, you think through your priorities, then take your time with that, right? It doesn't have to be just a minute or two. Like I'm sure when Marie does that with people, it's longer than what we see on the show. And so, yeah, that might be exactly what some people listening right now need to do with their money first before they then take action with simplifying. And we do have some actions you could take. Before we get to those actions, Brandon, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, and I would ask why a lot of times. Whenever we work with people and we talk with them about their dreams and goals, real estate is a hot thing right now. And so many people are like, hey, I'm going to get into real estate, or I am in real estate. And I look at their statements and I said, well, what's the goal? What do you want to have? And they say, well, I want to have 11 properties. 11, why 11 properties? Well, 11 properties because it will give me this amount of
monthly cash flow,
net worth,
yeah,
and monthly cash flow. And oftentimes they don't even know why they want 10 properties and they don't know what the cash flow is. And I ask, well, why did you come up with that number? And what is the cash flow reasoning? And so, again, thinking through this, oftentimes it's not about accumulation. Like you could have 100 properties and be making $1 each, right? And that's really bad business, right? That's not necessarily healthy. So you want to think, hey, if I had one property and it's generating me $1,000 versus a 1,000 properties and it's generating me $1,000, go with the one, right? Simpler, easier. You have more time to do whatever the heck you want. And oftentimes with our money, I think about it too. It's not about accumulation. It's about, okay, how much do I need monthly, annually, quarterly to live off of? That's usually
potentially.
what people are asking most of the time.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Sometimes I would just stress that even if you have the cash flow, there's always emergencies that come up. So you do need some accumulation too.
Yeah, some accumulation. You want it to grow. You want to keep building. But when it comes down to it, usually it's I need $10,000 a month. And that's going to, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Fill in the blank dollar amount. Okay. Let's get to these strategies to simplify. So, one analogy that has helped me think through simplifying my money is, let's say you want to break a window. Let's say there's a window in front of you and you want to bust through that window, get to the other side to this really awesome thing that's over there. Call it financial independence. Okay. And in one hand, you've got a whole bunch of pebbles, little rocks just sitting there in your hands. Maybe some of them are starting to fall through your fingers. You've got so many little rocks. And in the other hand, you've got a nice big rock, like fits in your hand. You can hold it. You can put your hands around it. Which one's going to bust through that window?
What's the weight on both?
It's the same.
Same weight.
Same
Okay.
same grams. If we put them on a scale, they're equal.
Well, yeah, I'd love to hear in the comments. What do you think? If you throw the one on the left side at a window, do you think it'll break? Or if you throw the one on the right side at the window, do you think it'll break? Which one do you think would
The handful of
break?
pebbles or the big rock?
Let's see. Drum roll. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Les might know an answer. Let's see if he has one. And we heard this from a great friend of ours, Mark Willis. He brought that up, and I was like, "Oh, that's really good." What?
Here we go. Lester says the rock. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think what a lot of people do to their detriment is what I've started to call over diversification. Not that they have too many different kinds of stocks, but they have just too many different financial products that none of them are really doing anything.
Yep.
They've got this and that and this and that and a little bit over here and a little bit over there, and they're using this app and this financial. There's just a lot of all over the place. I also like to call this too many plates spinning, right? We've all heard of that analogy. If you try to spin a bunch of plates, they're all just going to topple down. If we're being pulled in too many different directions financially, that can actually be detrimental to our financial security and freedom. Now, that's not to say you should have only one big rock, right? Should probably diversify a little bit. If you're familiar with the profit first concept, if you have a whole big platter there, you're going to eat a lot more than if you divide it into smaller plates. But sometimes you can go overboard, and it'd be almost like going to a buffet and putting one French fry on a single plate, right? Like too many plates, too much going on. And so sometimes what you might need to do to simplify is focus on one thing, get it big, and then start the next thing rather than trying to start so many different things at once. It can dramatically impact your ability to bust through that window and get to financial freedom on the other side. So that's our first strategy, real tangible thing. Think about whether you want to build a handful of pebbles or one big rock, or maybe you have a few big rocks. What's your strategy there? And maybe could you take some of those small pebbles that you have, cash them in, and exchange them for bigger rock? A bigger rock. 2 or 3 of them or whatever.
Well, and then you might be able to use them. This is maybe breaking the analogy a little bit, but you might be able to use some of that rock to help build on others, right? It's possible. And how do they work in unison, not in silos?
Right.
And I think that is a powerful thing. And I even talked to a client today. He wanted to start another couple policies, and I said, wait a second. Let's see where you're at, and maybe we need to add more into this place and not multiple places yet, depending on his goals. And you have to know that for yourself, right?
Yeah. Actually, you made me think of something I never thought of before. Those stacks of rocks. I think it was the Inuit tribes that would build that, put rocks on top of each other. Or I think, even in biblical times, I think the Israelites would make a pile of rocks as like a memorial.
Yeah.
Like if you have a whole bunch of little pebbles, like that's not going to stack up very well. But if you build a rock and then you put another rock on top and another, like you could build something that can last for a long time. So maybe not think of it as one rock, but how are you piling the rocks, building a memorial for yourself to use and to, the analogy kind of breaks down at that point. Okay.
But I do think it's more about what is the goals and financial independence, financial freedom. How do you use them? And knowing that other people.
And what are the building blocks that you need, not all the like tiny little Legos.
Yep.
Yeah.
And people are biting for our Legos, biting for our time, trying to get that from us. And
Yeah.
so having simplicity may bring more joy.
hmm Okay, here's our next thing. Brandon and I have been using this for quite a while, and it's been tremendous help for us. We'll share it with you, and you can ask yourself if you think this could work for you too. So it's really the power of using percentages rather than flat amounts. So we have, in a lot of cases, we divide out our financial decisions by percentages. This percent's going to go here, this percent's going to go there, this percent's going to go here. It works pretty well because our income goes up and down. And so we can do percentages much of the time. It doesn't work in all cases. Like what we do for our utilities, like on our budget, is we just look at what was the average of the year before and then put that in. And that's our budget for the new year of how much we think utilities could be. And we round up always because, yeah. But like in terms of deciding how much should we save for our future, we use grandma's 10-10-10 savings formula. 10% for short-term expenses like the holidays and vacations, things that happen on an annual basis. 10% for medium-term things are maybe between 1 year and 5 to 10 years, like new glasses or car repairs, that kind of thing. And then 10% to long-term savings like retirement, things that are in the longer future. And so when we even set up our budget, we do 10% to giving, and then we follow that 10-10-10 formula, and the rest, that those 60% left over, we figure out how to live off of that. How much can we do for groceries and utilities and all that kind of thing, and we just divide it out. And that's made it a lot simpler for us in terms of making financial decisions within the budget, personally, and to make sure that we're funding those savings buckets. And then Profit First, if you're not familiar with it, it also uses percentages in terms of how much profit should you take from your business, how much should you set aside for taxes, for owner's compensation, for operating expenses, and as long as, just like our personal income, business income goes up and down as well. And so by following those percentages, there's never a doubt how much do you put where and that kind of thing. So that actually, the percentages really simplify it for us. Wouldn't you say so, Brandon?
Yeah, because again, we kind of have a baseline set up. We know what we need to do, and percentages help us say, okay, well, I want to grow my retirement income. Well, if it's 10% of 100,000 versus 5,000, it's going to be lower, of course. So as an entrepreneur, it also drives saying, well, what I can control is more of my actions to build wealth, right? And it's all percentage based as opposed to I need to save $400 or $200. It'll change. And I think that percentages help me also look and say, how are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
And so on the flip side, using that percentage helps when you're, and I was thinking about this with another client, their income has grown, and so their lifestyle has grown. And so what's the challenge of is, oh, we need to get a car, we need to get this, we need to do that because I have the money. So the challenge is to make sure that you're growing everything, even your retirement savings
Right.
versus investing, right? And you can add all of that at the same time and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're not just saying, oh, wait, my money's, I have more income. Let's go buy more stuff. Because people, again, people want your money. And as you have it, there will be people asking for it. And so having those smaller plates, I may have the money, but I don't feel like I have the money. And that's a good thing.
Right, right. So lifestyle creep is real. It is good as your income goes up to allow yourself a little bit of wiggle room. But let's make sure we're also growing the savings buckets and the things for our future as well at the same
Yeah.
time. Love that.
We have a couple people here. There's, I think, 4 people watching. So put in the comments who you are.
Say
Love
hi.
that we have some live people here. Are we making sense? Does this help you? Uh, I would love to hear what other things that you do to simplify your money.
Yeah. And then so we have so far our official strategies for how to simplify, thinking about a handful of pebbles versus one big rock, thinking about the power percentage based formulas, and then finally we want to take a couple of things that are related to budgeting in particular. And I have to give a big shout out to a community that we're a part of. I'm going to put a link in the comments if you want to check out this community where you can, where there's like monthly themes, and the monthly theme this month with related to money is eliminate, automate, delegate, and scale. EADS. I think that comes from somewhere else, like a book or something. And
Probably.
we've been thinking all month long for the month of May how to eliminate, automate, delegate, and scale. And so when I was thinking about simplifying our money, I was thinking through those lenses. So I want to go through each of them, give some ideas. If you've got some ideas too related to budgeting in particular, or telling your money what to do, having a spending plan, however you want to refer to managing your cash flow, share those in the comments. Let's maybe get some ideas going. But in relating to eliminating, sometimes you can combine categories within your budget when the additional detail isn't important. Like you can have one category for all the utilities instead of having separate categories for gas, electric, water, and internet or cable or whatever. You could have categories by place you shop rather than breaking it down. So I know when I go to the grocery store, sometimes I'll buy groceries, sometimes I'll buy some household goods, sometimes it'll just be some spending money. I could instead just, have my category be the place where I go grocery shopping. So that's one idea for eliminating is combining budget categories. The other idea for eliminating, if you're familiar, there's a cool budgeting software called YNAB. You need a budget, and they have a 34-day challenge. And even if you don't use YNAB, you could do this 40-day challenge. I'd actually love to know if you would love to do it with the community. You could obviously do it with the YNAB community, but I'd also find it fun to try this with you. So if you want to try it with me, let me know. But here's all you do for 34 days. 3 things. Track every penny that you have that goes through your hands. Track it. Second thing, only spend what's necessary or required. We can't spend extra, just only what's required. And third, no eating out. And most people, if they do that for 34 days, what YNAB team has seen is that they have $1,000 at least, if not more, at the end of 34 days that is all of a sudden forming into a big rock, right? That they can then put toward their priorities. And it's kind of that jump start that some people need to get to get going with budgeting, to get going with controlling their spending, or just to get going with paying down debt or whatever it might be. So that's the eliminate couple ideas I had for you. Brandon, jump in. You want to jump in before I move on to automate?
Well, I mean, I think again, eliminating from a personal standpoint is looking and saying, okay, do I need that subscription? Do I need that? Do I watch this show if it's one show? Really, and $10 a month for that one show, is that worth it? For your overarching goals, again, asking those goals question.
Yeah.
And same thing in your business. What are things that you're doing that you don't really need to do? It's busy work.
Yeah.
Eliminating those things that you don't need to do.
Yeah. And I promise we've got a really big firework to end with today. One of my favorite things we're going to talk about. So stick with us. We've got something really big, a huge question for you at the end today. So let me just jump into automate, delegate, and scale pretty quickly, and then I'll hand it back over to you, Brandon, before the big finish. So automate, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Like, what could you set up as auto pay or auto transfer that you don't have to think about or do on a regular basis? We have most of our bills that way. It just makes things so much simpler to not even think about it. And it might be, Brandon, I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Oh, sorry. Let's turn on a light.
Okay. uh, to not, and actually it could be something like you need to do a 34-day challenge to build that $1,000 of cushion in your bank account so you can feel comfortable with auto pay. These kind of things can build on each other. So that's an idea for you though in terms of automating. Delegating, this is something I need to work on better with Brandon. Could you get your significant other to enter their transactions into your budget, or to, do some of the bill paying or something like that? Maybe that complicates things, but in some cases it could simplify. That might be something, or to your kids, or, something like that, some part of your financial life that you could delegate.
Well, again, I think that's part in business too. If you delegate doing all of these things, it might help you make more money. Right. So if you're a business owner, thinking in those same lines within your business.
Yeah. And actually that, let me show Les's comment again. When you simplify, it does help. In a lot of cases, in my case, it has totally helped me see more clearly where I'm going, what those targets and goals are or could be. And like your example with a business owner delegating, when you get some stuff off your plate, it might free you up to work on the business rather than in the business.
No.
Personally, with our finances, it might help us see opportunities of changes that we could make that could help us get more on target with where we want to go, and also see that more clearly. Yep. Okay. And then finally, when it comes to scaling, Brandon and I have been, whenever I think of scale, I think 80-20 every single time. The Pareto principle, if you're not familiar, 80% of the results come from 20% of the efforts. Yeah. Okay.
Good book.
Okay. And then when it comes to money, like probably about 20% of our money creates 80% of our joy, if not more, right? And because the bottom 20% is probably stripping away a bunch of our joy. So how could we shift funds from the bottom 20% to the top 20%? What does that look like to increase our joy, to give us a smart, stable financial future, all those kind of things? That is, in my book, the first step to whatever scale means to you.
Well, and again, asking those questions of what does scale mean? What are your goals? How does this fit in? And if you hire staff or you have something else, right, and they're not reaching towards those goals that you have, and if you haven't clearly defined those things, then again, somebody's going to tell you what you want to do with your time and your money.
Yep. So, and those things: eliminate, automate, delegate, and scale. They definitely build on each other. You might go through them in that order rather than try to scale before you've eliminated. That could actually make things more complicated. So think about that too. Okay, now for the big finish. Hopefully I didn't oversell this. But we were preparing for today, I was like, why should people think about this now? Why should people think about simplifying their money right now?
And does simplifying bring wealth? That was one of the things I was thinking about. Because simple means poor, doesn't it?
Oh, not necessarily. I think that's a misrepresentation of the word simplify.
Yeah, well, they have a simple life, so therefore they're um, they're not very well off. And so that's one of
Well,
the things I was.
no, I mean that's the millionaire next door. They
Mhm.
are a millionaire because they led a simple life, right? They
Yeah.
are Warren Buffett because they still drive an old car, however that works for him, right? They still
Yeah.
live in the same house, those kind of things,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to make sure we said that simplify can also mean, hey, you're going to get wealthier because of it.
Yeah. So, and this whole question, why focus on this now, has been very much inspired. My response has been very much inspired by the one and only Lester Himmel and how he thinks about and asks his clients, what will you do when you're 82? And if you think about it, it's hard for me. I'm 36, almost 37 now. It's hard to think about what will I do when I'm 82. But I get the sneaking suspicion that as I get older and I have financial freedom, whether that's 5, 10 years from now or 50 years from now, I'm
Mhm.
likely not going to want a complicated financial strategy. It could be because I just want more freedom to, I don't know, sit on a beach, travel the world, volunteer, give back, or whatever, and not be focusing on my money. But also, I highly doubt my cognitive abilities when I'm 82, right? Like, um, I want to make sure that my money is not so complicated that I have to be paying attention, thinking critically, um, worried about what my money is doing all the time.
Yeah.
But if I set up those systems and processes and simplify my money now, that I don't have to think about it, it just happens, and I'm not trusting anybody else, I can have some degree of confidence that my money is going to do what I expect it to do. Then that's going to allow me to actually have freedom financially, where I'm not thinking about money. I don't have to think critically about money. I
Yeah.
can truly have freedom.
You've already done that. You've checked it
I've
off.
done the
Mhm.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So why focus on this now so that I can have actual financial freedom? And for me, that includes not having to think about money or worry about it too much, right?
Yep.
That I can, um, I don't have to worry about, what could happen.
Well, what if someone says, I don't have any. So why do I shouldn't think about it now because I don't have any.
Well, there's going to be money that flows through your hands at some point in your life.
Or does now
And
too.
yeah, or it already is. What you do with that really matters.
Yep. Because I was again thinking about this, talking to somebody else, and they said, "Well, I don't really think about money. I don't do all of that, but it comes through us all the time." So, starting when you're 20, thinking about how money works, what you want it to do for you, now gives you a better edge when you're 30, 40, 50. um, and instead of waiting until you're 65 and saying, "Oh, I need to now think about this. It's
Yep.
complicated. Fix it for me."
Yep. Yep. And I'm probably, I don't know, from what I've heard from people that are older than me, I probably have some of the sharpest mind that I'm going to have to think critically and to take some of these actions and to set things up. I don't think I'll have it when I'm 82 or 92 necessarily. It could, but
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to trust that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you've dealt with your mom who at 65, she was doing okay, but she had the stroke, and that really affected her um, cognitive abilities.
Yeah, she was younger than 65 actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if we want to be technical. So that's our take on how to simplify your money. Would love to hear what stood out to you. What do you want to think more about, or what do you totally disagree with?
Yeah.
Please share that in the comments. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button, please hit subscribe, and please share it with someone else that you think could also benefit from some of our thoughts about simplifying your money.
Yeah. And Really, in the end, I just think, again, doing what we do, why we've chosen this path in our financial world and helping others in their finances is because it made sense. It was simple where we could do other things. That's why we chose the bank and yourself model in our business, really like 5 or 6 years ago, more than that. And why we went down that path and why we are passionate about this. And so, thinking our world is complex, it gets more and more complex, I feel like, by the second. And the things that you do now will help you in the future if you know how to simplify it, cut out what's not there, what's not bringing joy, what's not helping you, and put in the things that are. And that's ultimately, if you do those things, that will help you break through to a smart, stable financial future. And we want to help you do that.
Yeah. So we'll talk to you again soon. Have a good one. Happy Memorial Day
Thank
if you're
you.
watching this then.
Awesome. Have a great one.